Welcome to a guide on how to dig and build basements and underground food storage rooms in Going Medieval to keep your meals fresh and ice cold. My name is Peter and I will show you several different underground room designs, how to dig down to the granite layer, the best compact staircase design, explain the insulation mechanic, show you what kind of different floor tiles are good and bad, why shelves are best for food preservation, and lastly, how to make ice and add it to your basement to cool it down even during summer's heat waves. My previous building tips guide explained a lot of concepts I will be using here, so it is a good place to start, but it has an old version of the basement building instruction, which is why I have made this dedicated food storage room guide. Link to all my previous guides is up here and down in the description, along with my let's plays and showcases of other players' settlements. To build an effective underground room basement, there are several requirements you must take care of first. You need to unlock the tech called Architecture in the tech tree, which lets you construct wooden beams. These are necessary to hold underground rooms stable and prevent cave-ins. Second, you need wood to build those, as well as limestone or clay to construct many staircases as you dig down. You will need these materials for floor tiles to keep stairs stable and to keep food from rotting until you unlock the shelves in the tech tree with the food preservation technology. The shelves are the superior way of stockpiling food, seeds and medicine because they have several levels and don't require floor tiles, which are detrimental to your efforts of building an effective food basement. I will show and tell you more about that specific topic a bit later in the video. The spot at which you want to start digging should be close or even inside your kitchens, as raw food and prepared meals should be as close to your kitchen as possible to keep everything efficient and not waste a lot of time. One important note here is that kitchens produce heat, so you don't want to dig an underground room for food storage directly below them. You want your basement horizontally offset from your kitchens at least a few tiles. This will prevent any extra heat from messing with the temperature of the food storage room. This is also the reason why you never want to add torches or braziers into your basement. Once you have picked a good spot, you want to keep the staircase as compact as possible so you do not spend too much time digging or constructing it. This also helps reduce the likelihood of having stability issues when digging future underground rooms. My advice is to dig a space 3 tiles long and 2 tiles wide. Add a staircase of raw limestone if you are playing on a mountain map, or a clay staircase if you are playing on a valley map, as those are the most abundant materials on those maps. Once you have the initial hole dug and the first staircase constructed, you dig 1 tile at a time of the remaining 3 tiles, but, and this is really important, starting from the one in the back. If you dig the closest one first, you won't be able to reach the rest. When these are dug, you add another staircase in the way that the bottom part of the first one ends where the top part of the second one starts. When the second one is constructed, you have to add 3 floor tiles below the first staircase, as you have to give it support because the next step is to dig out the dirt tiles holding it up. So once your settlers construct these floor tiles below the first staircase, you give them the order to mine and dig out these 3 dirt pillars underneath it. Then you have to dig down another level, and again remember to dig from behind, not from the front. If you do make this mistake, you can fix it temporarily by adding floor tiles instead of the dugout pillar to bridge the gap. This digging of 2 levels clears up space to add another set of stairs, taking you down 1 more level. From here, you just repeat the process. Secure the stability of the staircases with floor tiles, dig the pillars holding them up, then the pillars below those, replace them with another staircase, and add floor tiles below those. The underground level you are aiming for is the granite floor, but it isn't a must, as having 2 full dirt layers above an underground room is enough insulation for that room not to get heated from the above open air. With the compact staircase completed, you now dig away from it. You can go with a narrow forward tunnel or a wide tunnel which branches off diagonally, which would be my advice, as it will let you have more choices and shorter paths to new underground rooms. The more you play and dig, you will find the exact design you like the most. For me, this design is good because it lets me spread narrow, longer tunnels into multiple directions from where I can branch off again. Once the settlers have dug the initial tunnel, you can start making the outlines of your future underground rooms. Here, there are several potential designs I will lay out for you. The first is an 8x8 room which has to be dug in a pattern where you go 6 tiles in a row, move 1 tile to the side and 1 more tile back up, after which you go for another 5 tiles to the side to get another 6 in total. As you repeat this process and turn each time, you get a square with individual corners left unmarked. These edges have to be left as natural pillars, as you can connect these with wooden beams I mentioned at the start of the video, as they will create structural support and enable you to remove all the pillars inside the room. Another design you can make is 9x9 tiles. It is done using the same pattern and with leaving corners intact for future wooden beams, but the difference is in the pillar in the exact middle. This one must not be mined out because it's 5 tiles away from every wooden beam on every side. Since wooden beams give support only up to the 4th tile from them, digging this middle pillar out would break the stability of all pillars above it and they would cave in. I have explained the whole stability mechanic in a separate in-depth video, and it is a really important subject you should learn about regardless of whether you are building up or digging down. So here is a link up on the right and down in the description. As your settlers dig out the pillars marked in the original 8x8 square, you will introduce these wooden beams between each corner of the square. It is really important you get this right, or you will risk top layers losing structural support and caving in on you. If those break, you will have to replace them with constructed pillars, but it is no longer the same as they do not have the same properties which are of key importance for insulation of underground rooms. Insulation is explained a bit later in this guide. In this 8x8 design, everything is covered by the stability of the wooden beams and the middle has the stability rating of 1, which is just enough. The third design I want to show you is how to dig mini squares which you can keep connecting to each other to increase the room's total footprint. Once you mark the initial 5x5 room size, with each edge being 3 tiles long and 3 pillars at each corner, you can add another such future room section to one side. The corner pillars will be shared between the 2 sections, so you are adding the other 3 sides. It ends up looking like a plus sign in the middle or a Game Boy's movement controller for us old-timers and any of you enjoying old console controllers. You can keep doing this as many times and in whatever direction you want, as long as you keep to the same design. The key benefit here is increased stability from future wooden beams, as their stability effect will crisscross, so instead of having pillars with just 1 stability point, you will have 2, 3 or even 4. And more is always better when it comes to stability. The final design I want to show you is an 8x12 room. The limit of 8 is because wooden beams give off the 4 stability points off to each side, as I mentioned before, so the middle pillars have the minimal 1 stability. The length of 12 is the limit because wooden beams can only span the maximum of 10 tiles. Counting the pillars they are connected to, you get 12. I do not advise this design even though I have used it often, because you can easily get into trouble of losing stability when you start to dig above or below these rooms. Stability seems easy in theory, but when you start putting it into practice, you can end up with numerous problems since it's not easy to plan in 3D, as I learned the hard way during my many Let's Play episodes in different settlements. Using the system of expanding on the initial room layout I showed you a moment ago, let us now expand this 8x8 room with another one directly connected to it. This way you have lots of area to dig out, keep supported and later fill with shelves and food. Because granite has a low traversal speed and will slow down your settlers walking on it, you should invest in the tech for clay bricks or limestone block making, because a path of bricks or blocks gives settlers a speed boost when placed over other types of terrain. On a mountain map, you have plentiful limestone, so you should use a stonemason's bench to craft limestone blocks, while on a valley map, you should use a kiln to bake clay bricks. I have showcased the effect paths made of these materials have on settler speed in a special guide on roads in Going Medieval, linked up here and in the description. If you look at the wooden floor tile stats, its traversal speed is 100% and its thermal insulation is 0.94, almost max, while the wicker floor is 94 speed and only 0.4 thermal insulation, which makes it a bad material for keeping the heat out. Raw limestone floor tiles are a bit better with the same traversal speed but almost double the thermal insulation. And here is a quick little comparison between wicker floor tiles and clay brick floor tiles, which have the same stats as limestone block tiles. Once a whole room is covered in these two materials, a side-by-side comparison will show you the clear difference that half a point of insulation makes. The room with wicker floor tiles is warmer by 1.5 degrees, its cooling is reduced, and its floor insulation is cut by half, so use wicker floors only as a placeholder. When you craft the first limestone bricks, you will unlock the floor type made from them, and it has the higher 110% traversal speed and almost wood-like thermal insulation of 0.9. Wood is superior by a small margin, but the increased speed more than makes up for this, which is why for me the limestone blocks are the best choice. I use them to lay a path down from the stairs all the way to the actual basement room. Where a whole edge of the room has been dug out, you can use the wooden beams, which will hold up the top layers and provide stability. Do be patient and wait until you have set the wooden beams on all 4 sides before you do any additional digging. Before we continue, I would like to remind you about helping me out by liking this video and maybe leaving a comment about what other subject you would like me to make a guide about. And do subscribe to see that video when I post it. Only when the stability of the entire room is secure should you take up the pickaxe again and order the inside dirt pillars to be mined out. Again, you have to wait a while, especially on mountain maps, as limestone dirt natural pillars have much higher health points than clay dirt natural pillars on valley maps. This is why if you want to play on a mountain map, I recommend making sure your settlers have high mining skills and some traits which increase the speed of working or specifically mining. You can learn more about min-maxing settlers like that in my guide on this subject, which is part of my Going Medieval guide playlist linked in the description. Adding a door is a mixed bag type of situation. On one hand, having a door does help keep the temperature stable, but since stairs have become room separators in one of the updates, doors are no longer a must. I will build them and later set them to be always open, because that way settlers don't slow down to open and close them each time. There is sort of a temperature impact, and I will show you when we come to it. Once the room has been cleared of all pillars, you can click on a beam and then in its first card on the room type text to open the room's information card. Spare room is the basic room with no specialization. Here you can see its temperature, and in the info tab there is more important data. With outside being at 21 degrees Celsius or 69 degrees Fahrenheit, we have achieved a temperature of 2.9 degrees Celsius or 37 degrees Fahrenheit, which is low enough to keep food and other perishables from rotting. If the temperature were to be higher than 5 degrees Celsius or 41 degrees Fahrenheit, you would start to see items rot. This becomes almost a certainty during summer heat waves, and this is why ice was introduced in Update 3. But we will get to that in time. The important factor here is that the negative heating this room is getting is minus 5 degrees Celsius. This means it is cooling compared to its environment. And here we finally get to the insulation mechanics. As you can see, all 3 stats, floor, roof and walls, are all in the high 90s with the average total insulation at 96.5%. This is directly because all the roof, wall and floor tiles are natural limestone pillars except for that wooden door and one limestone block floor tile. Those natural pillars have the highest insulation stats, and it is practically impossible to replicate that with your own crafted items. Next step is to lay out more limestone floor tiles as paths over which settlers will move much faster. Granite is 85% traversal speed compared to the 110% of these tiles. That is a considerable speed boost of 30%. Next come the shelves, which have great capacity and remove rotting caused by ground type from the equation. These are unlocked in the tech tree and the preserving food tech. You can discover your own layout design and setup, but this next layout is my advice. Shelves next to the walls in a full column except the horizontal passageway. Leave one empty tile column for the vertical passageway and add 2 more columns of shelves. Keep on going with the same layout in the future. Once the first shelf is constructed, you have to edit its settings. The priority must be higher than stockpiles on which your resources are already located, so high or very high. Most of these things are perishable, so all medicine, seeds, saplings, textiles, raw and prepared food should be moved here. Textiles you could actually skip because those shouldn't rot if roofed and placed on floor tiles on some stockpile. To force this setting on all other shelves, you can use this copy settings button here and then use the paste settings button on the other ones. A bit of a faster way is to copy the entire shelf, settings included, using this button and make new ones like it. So you can order and construct just one, set the settings and copy it for new constructions with these default settings. If you have settlers free from other jobs and they have the hauling job set in their jobs options, you should soon see them bringing items down here and stocking the shelves. Now, if we once again look at the installation percentages, you will notice a small drop of a few percent in the floor insulation because we have limestone block tiles over natural limestone tiles. This directly leads to a higher temperature and a lower cooling temperature of this room, as you can see in the info card. It is nothing major because we have so few tiles and their insulation is high, but this demonstrates to you the whole point. Now, as for the impact of doors, here is a short little experiment. With an always open door, I have a certain temperature and a certain negative heating value. But if I set the door to its default closed option and a settler comes over and closes it, the whole room automatically gets a bit warmer and its wall insulation goes from 96.1% to 96.6%. This is counterintuitive, of course, as I have just explained that high insulation leads to lower temperature, yet here high insulation produces an increase in temperature. The trick here is that insulation changed to a higher value because a closed door obviously insulates a room better than an open one, and that does reduce the temperature. But as this is a door, closing it traps the air inside the room and prevents air circulation. That leads to a higher temperature, which has a much higher increase than the decrease in temperature provided by higher insulation. We had a high increase and a low decrease of temperature at the same time. So while it looks like an increase in insulation value caused a temperature spike, it is actually the door itself being closed which caused it. Windows have the same effect on above ground rooms, and there are some experiments with rooms above ground made up of only open windows being as cold as underground rooms. I haven't included this bug/feature in this guide as it's more a curiosity than something you should count on working in the future. To successfully lower the temperature of an underground room even further, we need ice made in ice boxes. These are unlocked by the tech ice making, which requires 20 chronicles and 10 textbooks. To write textbooks, you need a research table, which requires unlocking second level tech research. Now, if I construct an ice box inside this very basement and try to make ice in it, it cannot work because the temperature is obviously not below freezing, so no ice making. You will have to wait until your first deep autumn and most likely proper winter for temperatures to drop below 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface. It is there that you will be crafting ice blocks in ice boxes and leaving them for a time to set and solidify. When you finally have some ice blocks, you need to add stockpiles with the exclusive settings for storing ice blocks on them inside your food basement and in the far corners, so your settlers don't have to step over them all the time. If you make settlers move through stockpiled items, they have to slow down. When the ice blocks finally arrive, you will notice that your heating temperature stat has gone down again, and with it your basement's ambient temperature. It will take some time to reach its new lowest temperature. Do note that before the latest updates, common wisdom was that the larger an underground room was, the lower was the temperature inside it. I tested this in the current game version, but I didn't find this to be true anymore. Even when comparing rooms which had 4 times the difference in total tile area, I didn't find a big difference. Only the addition of limestone block floor tiles and opening or closing the door had a noticeable effect on room temperature between a small and a large room I built and tested here. I hope this guide helps you construct proper food storage rooms and basements, but if you have any trouble or specific problems, feel free to ask me in the comments and I will troubleshoot with you. The cards on the screen will show you more of my guides and videos about going medieval, and I want to thank you for watching and wish you all happy gaming.